Okay, everyone. Hey, everyone. Sorry about that. A bit late. Live now. Innovation Fika, the Wednesday morning coffee break with me, Donnie, sometimes with a guest. Today, it's an AMA session, and just going to connect Instagram here as well. And there we go. Live on Instagram as well. As you come online, please, as usual, pop your name in the comments and ask me any questions. This is an AMA session. Ask me anything. Fråga mig vad som helst om entreprenörskap, startups, innovation, ideas, innovation, entrepreneurship. Ask me anything. I'm here for your, I was going to say pleasure, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just here for yours. I'm at your service. I'm at your service. So feel free to, as I said, ask me anything. Say hi, if nothing else. Always nice to meet people. Say hi, who you are, and what you want to know about entrepreneurship, startups, innovation, anything. As you might know, I work at one of the largest innovation offices in Sweden at KTH, which is the Royal Institute of Technology, KTH. And I've been here quite some time. So I've worked with, I don't know, 500, maybe more, 500 ideas maybe, of which a lot have become startups, and a lot of also have during the process tried stuff through validation, realized it's not going to work, but they've learned lots of things and have started things after us. Hi, look at that. Hey, the great Konstantin. Well, I don't know about that, but thanks for saying hi and welcome aboard. And what's the origin of my name? There's a good, well, I did say ask me anything. The origin of my name, Donnie S.C. Ligonis. Donnie, Spiridon Konstantin Ligonis. Spiridon Konstantin is Greek from my Greek father. My father's name was Konstantin, and my grandfather's name was Spiridon. So I got my grandfather's name, Spiridon, and then I have my father's name as a second name. So that's the origin of my name. It means, Spiridon means either spirit or the first, the foremost, and Konstantin means emperor. So I'm the greatest, the first foremost emperor, I guess. Ligonis is Greek. Don't really know what that means. Nobody really knows what it means. It's different values. And then Donnie is my English nickname that my English British mother has been calling me since I was very, very small. And then everybody else. So everybody's been calling me Donnie. So Donnie is actually not my given name. It's a nickname that just stuck from when I was very, very young, early. So that's the origin of my name. But anyway, moving on. David Tainton. Hey, good to see you on Instagram. Wonderful to see you. Old friend, David Tainton. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Always nice to see you online, sir. As I said, ask me anything, pop a question about anything you want to know about entrepreneurship, startups, innovation. You know, this today is your session when you get to ask me any kind of question that you might need to, want to know or need to know. Everything from, stuff like how to validate an idea, or raising money, or, things like that. And I think some of the basic stuff, some of the basic stuff that we always cover is, how do I come up with a good idea kind of thing? And I wish I had, we always get that. I'd love to come to you and get some support, but I don't have any good ideas. Best way of finding good ideas is to, I would say, read the morning paper, because they are nothing else but, page up and page down of problems and needs in the world. And just by reading the paper, you can usually get a lot of ideas. But I think usually the problem we have, as if you're coming from like an engineering or a tech side, you're usually very sort of tech driven. You have this idea for a thing or a service, not necessarily based on the need, but it's based on, your idea. Oh, maybe I can build this, or maybe I can do something this way. That then needs to be flipped into not what you want to build, but what somebody else wants to need. So then we can restart the whole process and say, well, if you're looking for good ideas, start with looking for good needs. Look around you and see what are people complaining about. What would you want to fix in the world? And when you find a good need, then I recommend finding a good need that you also care about, because you're going to need a lot of care and passion and things here. And Okay, let's see. That's not a actual question, but Fredrika, Svenska Memo, Nest program, textile industry, present a new guy for. Yes, okay. To look up similar project, how you look up similar project when you present your data. Okay, thanks, Fredrika, for adding that. And if anybody else has anything regarding ideas and how to come up with ideas, we can talk about that. We can also talk about how to validate ideas. So then we find the need. Okay, well, let's start by finding a need. I want to fix this thing. Okay, then for my first question is, who else wants you to fix it? Who else wants it fixed? Are there other people in the world that want the same thing? How many other people in the world want the same thing? Are they reachable? Are they in a specific group of people? How many are there? Are they willing to pay? How much can you charge for your solution or product or whatever you're delivering? Can you do that repeatedly? Will they pay repeatedly? All of these things are kind of hard questions, but they're really important to talk about in the beginning. Sometimes they're super obvious. Yes, people want this and they're willing to pay for it. You can see other people, doing the same thing. Sometimes it's harder because you've come up with something that might not be so, either easy accessible to them, or there's no you might not find anything that looks like it. So it's really hard to compare the competition. Competition is good, by the way. Don't forget that. Competition is a good thing. If you come up with something, if you want to fix something and you see that other people are already trying to fix it, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's usually a good thing, because then it means that there's some kind of market out there. Somebody else is trying to fix something that other people need. So that's not a bad thing. If the competition is too fierce, that's tough. If people don't want to pay because they can get free stuff, it's tough. Then we need to figure out how to add more value, or how to compete in other ways. But that's like not a second stage thing, but that's an add-on thing. So one, identify a good need that you can actually track, that enough people want to use and want to pay for. That's usually a good start. Most ideas die because people overestimate the other people's want for their ideas. Right? And they go, "Oh, I have this great idea. I think it's great." Yeah, but does anybody else think it's great? Maybe not so many others. A lot of ideas are based on, I wish I had one of these, or I wish it could do this. It doesn't mean that everybody, it doesn't mean that it works. It doesn't mean that anybody else wants. I come up with those ideas all the time. Every day I come up with 1,000 ideas. Okay. Oh, here's a question. Okay. Olof. Hey, Olof. I'm working at a strange intersection of several existing areas: information theory, industrial manufacturing, machine-to-machine legibility. Wow. As most areas of work are quite siloed and collaboration is almost non-existent, I figured I would create a scene myself. How do you find and attract the first 10 people when there's no existing subreddit conference? Oh, that's a good question. Additional constraint. I'm broke and have no special. That's over. Of course, that's a tough one. Good question. Very good question, Olof. And the more difficult thing you're trying to do, the more. Well, I usually make the analogy, even though I'm not going to in any way. If you take Elon Musk, for example, or other people like Elon Musk that do big things, they usually don't. He didn't start by sending up rockets into space. He started with a payment solution 30 years ago. That then turned successful. It exited, and then he put that money into the next venture, raised even more money, and then the next venture, and then built his platform into technology. And then that sort of paved the way for everything else that came along. So sometimes you need to also reframe and say, so how am I going to, what's my path to success, and how am I going to reach this? Can I start with something smaller? So in your case, I'd say, okay, I'm not saying this is your case, Olof, but I'm saying that in many cases, people try and do everything for everyone in one area, and it just becomes, they spread themselves too thin. The solution is too big, and it just doesn't sort of manage to be this all-encompassing thing. and it's also a cultural thing. So I mean, look at in Sweden, we don't have, you know, one app does all. We have lots of apps that do different things. In China, you have like one app that does everything. You chat and you pay and you order food and everything in one place. And then we're not so that's a cultural difference as well. But anyway, so coming back to your specific problem there, I'd say, you know, is there anything you can do can you narrow down the scope? Can you start somewhere? I mean, if you look at the full scope that you're trying to address and you can say, okay, well, I'm going to do this for all of these things. Can I start in one and move into the others? Or does it have to be all at once? And, you know, won't it start working until everything is in there, which is, of course, a tougher thing. So, you know, is there any way you can start? Is there any way? And of course, then identifying the starting point is, are there enough people here who want to pay me something to get started, since you're broke as well? How can I, what's the closest way to making any kind of money in this business idea? And the vision can be great. I mean, the vision can be, we're going to do this for everyone. But as long as you find a narrow enough starting point where you can make some kind of business happen and make some kind of money, because nothing beats traction, nothing beats customer money, nothing beats proof of concept. I mean, if you're selling and making money on something somewhere, I mean, nobody can take that away from you. If you're constantly, like 5 years later, talking about this big thing you're going to build, and you haven't really built anything, you don't really have any customers yet, and nothing's really happening, then, you know, that works. The vision pitch works for a while, but after a year or 2 years or 3 years, and you're still doing the same vision pitch and nothing is happening, people start, you know, becoming a bit suspicious. So I always try and say, you know, try and find a narrow enough starting point. Do something for a very enthusiastic group of people. Get them on board. Nothing beats traction. Nothing beats customer money. Get something going. I mean, that would be the big thing. So, but it's a tough question. A good question, but a tough question. And you know, sometimes, yes, I mean, sometimes you have to. You said about, you know, there's no Reddit threads and there's no place to find people, but sometimes you have to sort of, you also invent the community or find them in other places and then pull them in. And we have one very good case here at KTH Innovation. They were building AI for teachers, and they needed to, you know, find the teachers, but they couldn't really find them in one specific group. So they actually started their own group. And then the question was, where do we find this target group? I mean, you don't start by just communicating what you want to do in social media. You start by thinking, where are the people we're trying to communicate to, in which channel, and how do we reach them there, and with which content to achieve which action. So then they went all the way back and they said, well, our target group is probably on Facebook, not on Reddit. So let's start a Facebook group. So then they started a Facebook group for teachers, and it was all only, you know, it was no selling. It was just, we want to speak to people, teachers who are interested in AI. And then they started that group, and they started attracting people. And then they went to different places where they could find these people, and they invited them to the group to just be part of learning together. And within, like, you know, months, they had 2,000 people in that group, 2,000 teachers, which then became a very, very good, solid, both sounding board, but also, you know, it became their first users. And I mean, many of them are still using. I mean, they were the first ones on board, and they are still in their customers today. So, you know, there's always ways of building your sort of own community in the beginning, but it's all about finding the first following and getting them on board, finding your first traction, attracting the first people who want to really, you know, be your both ambassadors, but also hopefully your first paying members. Yeah, I'm building the new standard of trust. Yes, high-end gastronomy, which is my starting point. By the way, Jensen Hung in this morning's newspaper copied my idea saying AI is going to be like an infrastructure like water and electricity. I told Jimmy that trust is going to be like water and electricity in the future. Of course, yeah. That's interesting. I think that I mean, I know this idea somewhat. I'd say that the important thing here is, again, you know, you just starting out, trying to find, you know, your first followers and trying to narrow it down so you don't try to offer everything for anyone, because then it's very, very hard to compete. The people who meet you don't really know who you are for. You want them to be for them, right? So that's why I encourage people to be very, very laser focused in their first starting point, and finding, again, you know, finding who is my first target group and how can I start attracting them? What kind of message do they listen to? What kind of design do they appreciate? And then you can build something which is tailored for them. And then from there, you can always branch out later on. You can branch out, you can widen the scope, you can deepen the scope. And then, you can expand your market in different ways at the second stage. But always starting out by being as focused as possible. And then, don't, and from the start, make sure that you have some kind of a business idea built, a business model built into this. So how is this going to make money? So it's nothing like, oh, we'll figure that out later on, because there are ideas, and then there are good ideas, and then there are good business ideas, and that's three different things. A good business idea is an idea that you can actually do business with and make money out of, and people happily want to pay you for it, directly or indirectly. Indirectly is when other people pay for them to use it, like Facebook or social media. Directly is when they pay themselves. So it's all about figuring out, how am I going to make money, and try that as early as possible, because willingness to pay, the willingness to pay signals are crucial. Are people actually willing to pay for this somehow? Super important signals. Giving things away for free usually just means that they're not worth anything, and internet is full of free stuff. We are hopeless free eaters of internet, all of us. We surf around looking for free stuff, and then we try something, and then it's like, oh, this is cool, and then it's like, oh, I have to pay now, and then and then we leave, unless it actually brings so much value to us that we feel, I want to stay, I want to pay. So you need to figure out very, very early on, how am I going to make money, and actually try and charge people for that, because you have to get some kind of signals in regarding willingness to pay. So a large enough group of people that will want to use this, that really want to try it out, a large enough group of people who want to pay enough money to make this not only a working, but also a viable business idea that can scale and grow, or enough. Can I see and what's my scaling potential? Is it just a matter of getting more people in and converting them from getting them into paying, and how does that conversion work, and what percentages do we have, and all of that data-driven stuff when it comes to building things. I think that's really, really important, especially early stage founders. They flounder because it's like your first 1,000 users, the first 10,000 users, they're usually really, really hard to come by. Some things have a tendency of catching on, and then you can't create intentionally something viral, but you can always create the foundation for something to be viral. I mean, one way of doing that, of course, is to be on social media. Have a channel, depending on, again, where your target group is. Have a channel, become a content marketer, become a thought leader, take the position of what you want to represent. I mean, in the restaurant guide case, I mean, you can do lots of information about restaurants, and post about restaurants, and visit restaurants, and have other people go visit restaurants, and highlight other people's this month's best review, whatever. You just get the content out there and get people seeing what's going on. There's a lot of things going on. So people are actually they're pulling their information from social media in a much larger extent today than they did like 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 3 years ago. So that's something to look at as well. And then, of course, it's all about, how much money do we need to make money? Can we make money from day one? Can we get somebody to pay us? Which is, of course, great. Can we sort of pilot? If you're doing any kind of B2B, any kind of collaboration, then I encourage everyone to don't give away too much for free, especially if you are a small startup and they're a big company, because for you it's your only thing that you're doing, and for them it's like one of 1,000 processes. So have them set aside at least the man hours to support your pilot, if they can pay anything, direct costs at least, so you don't stand there with paying lots of servers and whatever. And then you can always compromise on the actual how much we're going to make part, but always try and be if you're building a business which is meant to exist in a transactional world that we live in, then it has to be transactional. It has to be built on you offering something and getting something back for that. Value creation for both parties, super important. And then there's all this thing about raising money and when and oof, don't go out and chase VC money the first thing you do. Do grants, do soft funding, do business angels, anything you can do to make it work without bringing in VC money, which is usually a very hard investment where they will demand. You're giving away part of your company, right? It's giving away equity to somebody who is honestly not, as a business idea. VCs aren't interested in your business idea. Their business idea is to maximize the return on investment for the money people, because they usually look after funds, right? So it's other people's money that they look after in order to maximize the return on those funds. So they're not in it to be your best friend. They're in it to maximize their winnings. And if you can't do that for them, they're not interested. So just have that in mind when you're actually speaking to VCs versus an angel. An angel is different. There are people with money who want to see good things happen, and smaller money, but also usually very good money in the beginning. But don't forget the grants. Don't forget the whole setup with. It's a good question here from Fredrika. Where is a good support website where you can get the guidance to different parts to reach funding support, both paid and free suggestions? Isn't that a good idea? It exists. There's loads of. I don't know. I'll say it. I don't know if it exists in the way that you see it. But again, if you can't find it, it doesn't really exist for you, right? But there's E204, which collects all of the grants in Sweden and Europe. So you can find all of the current grants from Vinnova and the EU and everywhere. That's on E204.com. There's a whole new. There's loads of sites that list the different foundations in Sweden. Stiftelse Databas. There's a new one that I can't remember the name of right now, but they do an AI thing where you can go in and you can say, hey, I'm doing this. Are there any foundations that have grants for this kind of stuff? And then it lists all of the foundations in Sweden that you could apply for money from. There's a new one just out now. There's a bunch of sites, but again, I don't know if there's one that does exactly what you wanted to do. So I'd have a look at that. Definitely, sure. The question is, how are you going to? Which it's a great idea, but then the question is, it might not be a new idea. Other people might have tried it. Why hasn't it worked before? Maybe that's a more important question. Why haven't it worked before then? Usually it's because, how are you going to make money? How if you're just going to do it and there's going to be a free site that just shows how you raise money and where you can raise them? How is that site going to make money? How is it going to survive itself? And what money are you going to get to pay to build the site and maintain the site and keep it updated and aggregated? So that's usually, and then of course, if you go into the more funding, there's thousands of sites that aggregate investors and VCs and angels and things like that. f6.com, traction.net. There's loads and loads and loads. Angel List. There's loads of sites that actually collect investors and match them with startups. So many things out there. There's tons of stuff out there. The question is there anything in the way that you see it? Maybe not. If so, then I'd spend time thinking about, okay, well, if I build something like this, how is it going to be maintained? How is it going to make money? And who's going to run it? Am I going to run it? Are you going to run it? That's, the first questions. And then, having that said, I always encourage people to, if you want to use Lovable or something similar, just build something. It takes you like 1 hour, right? It takes you half an hour. It takes an hour to build something in Lovable. And you can very, very quickly visualize for yourself. What does this look like? Does it feel, is this what I saw in my head? Does this feel plausible? Yes, no. And very often, I get lots of ideas, right? And I throw them in Lovable and I spend 15 minutes just building something. and it comes out, and sometimes it goes, I go, ugh, no, it sounded a lot better in here than it looks there. So next, and then I just, but then it instead of me spending like a year trying to build something that might or might not work, usually not, right? I can spend 1 hour and then seeing right away that no, it's not going to work in this way. So that's another tip that I would happily give. Don't spend too much time and money on building something that you don't know that other people will want. I build stuff all the time, and I throw it at my friends and say, what do you think about this? Or I put it on LinkedIn and say, hey, I bought this new thing, have a look. Yeah, good way to do it. Ja, exactly. Vägvisning för mindre företag och startups. Bara vägvisningen. Absolut. Men frågan är vem som ska betala för det. Alltså det finns ju hur mycket sånt som här som helst. Frågan är varför har det inte funkat? Hur ska det här se ut som inte något? Alltså vad är det för nytt med det här? Men den stora grejen ofta är det här med idén med att det här ska finnas har ju funnits väldigt, väldigt länge. Faller oftast på hur ska det överleva? Vem ska drifta? Hur ska man tjäna pengar? Vem är det till för? Och så vidare. Men lös det så rock'n'roll. Det är bara att köra. Cool. Okay, everyone. I'm actually checking. Look, it's 10. It's 10 a.m. on the nose. The world's fastest half an hour. This was fun. I'll do this again. Next week, I'm in the US. Traveling. I'll be in the West Coast. So no Innovation Fika next week. Or maybe there might be one. I don't know. Maybe I'll do one from the US. But it will be it will be midnight or something. But we'll see. But don't count on Innovation Fika next week. The week after, definitely. Maybe a guest again. Great doing this session. Thank you, everyone, for pitching in and asking ideas and being active. Really happy to see people online. And let's do this again. Maybe next time I can also send out a message before and have people send in the questions they want me to address during the session. So anyway, and don't forget, all of the content is recorded and on LinkedIn, YouTube. So 200 episodes on YouTube with me and a lot of them with guests as well. With that, I will say thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you at least, if nothing else, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Innovation Fika, 9:30 a.m. Bye for now.